It was supposed to be the happiest time of his life. A young American military officer had just graduated from one of the most prestigious military academies in the country. He earns his first commission and receives his first overseas posting and arrives at Manila, Philippines with his entire future ahead of him. Then he met a girl. She was just 16 years old, bright eyed, cheerful, and full of dreams for her future. And not long after, the two would fall deeply in love. They talked about marriage, a future, a life they believed they would share. But less than a year later, the same officer would walk calmly towards the gallows in Manila, becoming the first American military officer to be executed during peacetime. So, what happened? How did a young couple who seemed so deeply in love end up in such a tragic murder case? Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the GMC channel. I am Esther Vincent, also known as Leah Mia on social media. This is my channel, and in this channel, I talk about the ghost, the mystery, the crime. If that is something that you're into, please subscribe, help the channel grow further. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's get into today's story. Let's travel back to the 1920s Philippines. It was still under the American rule at that time, and Manila had become one of the most important places for American military. American officers were stationed there for years at a time, and when they are not carrying out their trainings or their duties, life over there was surprisingly very lively. Full of elegant hotels, dances, dinner parties, it was the place for young officers to meet new people and mingle. One of those officers was the 25-year-old Second Lieutenant John Sewell Thompson. Now, John, he wasn't born into a wealthy military family or anything like that. No. He first got enlisted during World War I before earning his way into West Point. He graduated in 1924 and was sent thousands of miles away to Fort William McKinley in Manila, Philippines. John was adjusting to his completely new life in this completely foreign country with unfamiliar places and people, but that didn't last long. Shortly after arriving, John attended the social gathering that was happening on a river barge. And in that social gathering, he notices someone that he just could not stop thinking about. Audrey Burleigh, the 16-year-old stepdaughter of Captain Hamilton Combs, an army doctor. Audrey was said to be very friendly, outgoing, full of energy, and she was the type of person that makes everyone around her feel comfortable. John was captivated. In a letter to his mother, he described Audrey as having pretty, bewitching eyes. From the moment they met, she stayed on his mind. The two got acquainted, and following the next few months, they grew inseparable, going to dances, dinners, drives, evening drives around Manila, and spending quiet night under the tropical sky. To John, those quiet, alone moments with Audrey was the happiest memories of his life. He told his mother that Audrey was the most wonderful girl he had ever met and the first ever woman he had said, I love you to. He truly believed that Audrey was the one he would get married to, and by all accounts, Audrey cared deeply for John as well. So, to everyone around them, they looked like this very young couple who was excited about their future together. And not long after, they both got engaged. But behind all this happiness and excitement, there was a problem. As a newly commissioned lieutenant, John's salary was pretty thin. Worried about money and housing, the couple decided that they would wait until both of them are back in the US to get married. It was sensible, but waiting was something John struggled with. The more serious the relationship became, the more attached and anxious John grew. His letters shifted from simple happiness to simply missing her constantly, counting the hours apart from her, feeling miserable whenever they were separated. Audrey, on the other hand, still seemed to see everything as loving and hopeful as it has always been, living her normal life with her family and friends. Looking back, it's easy to see what people back then could not see. John wasn't just in love with Audrey, but he seemed to have become emotionally dependent on her, maybe a little too obsessed with Audrey. Then came a new pressure. Audrey's family, they were preparing to return back to the US, meaning the couple, John and Audrey, they would have to spend time apart, hundreds of miles away from each other until they could get married. For John, even a temporary separation felt unbearable. He wanted certainty that nothing would ever come between them. Like, John, bro, you gotta chill. You gotta trust Audrey. Like, for a relationship to thrive, there are these few principalities. Is it principalities? Principles, sorry. Principles that you gotta follow: love, respect, honesty, trust. You gotta trust Audrey. She has to trust you. Both of you trust each other. Don't let separation, temporary separation, staying away from each other come between you. Like, come on, man. So, small misunderstanding started creeping in. If Audrey were to spend time with some friends outside or with other officers, nothing suggesting infidelity though, but John's mind, it would start to fill in the gaps that weren't even there. John started reading too much into the little things. Like a delayed meeting with him, he goes all suspicious. A conversation with another man, he becomes all jealous. Or times when she wasn't around him, he starts going crazy in his head. None of these things even meant anything, but his fear of losing her, losing Audrey, made them look much bigger than they were. He kept all these intense feelings suppressed inside of him, like he just kept it in his heart. While they still looked like a happy couple on the outside, John was slowly becoming more and more insecure and afraid that Aubrey might just leave him. Like, where is he getting all these ideas from? By early 1925, their relationship had grown more strained. John feared once Audrey returns back to the US, everything might unravel, that she might meet someone new, that she might change her mind in getting married to him, that the future they planned together would just vanish in an instant. There is no evidence, mind you, there is no evidence that Audrey had ended things with him or was even planning on leaving him for anyone else. No. But John's fear convinced him otherwise, and it began consuming him. On the evening of April 4th, 1925, John and Audrey had gone out together like they had done many times before. They spent some time in Manila and then their chauffeur drove them together to a quieter place somewhere near Fort McKinley. They were both sitting at the back seat of their car, and at some point, their conversation turned very serious. It became an argument. Investigators later believed that they argued about multiple things like their future together, Audrey's participation in an amateur theatrical production, which John just did not like, and her plan of moving back to the US with her family and such. John wanted reassurance again and again, while Audrey, she just wanted to go home with her family as planned. Whatever happened next, it was enough to push the situation beyond the point of no return. According to John's own account, he became overwhelmed and unable to think clearly. John pulled out his army issued pistol and fired. John shot 5 times. Audrey was struck multiple times, suffering 11 wounds. Audrey, now slumped, bleeding, looking straight at the man once she loved so deeply, who had now shot her to her death. Realizing what he had done, he tried to get help immediately. He screamed for his chauffeur to drive them straight to the nearest hospital, but it was too late. Audrey Burleigh succumbed to her injuries and died at just 16 years old. Within a single night, a love story that was full of promises for the future ends in an unimaginable tragedy. John did not run or hide what he had done. He admitted to the shootings immediately. According to the court records, John walked into the Fort McKinley guardhouse, approached the corporal of the guard, and said, quote unquote, I am Lieutenant John S. Thompson of the 31st Infantry, self confessed slayer of Miss Audrey Burleigh. Lock me up. I want a chaplain. The question was never who pulled the trigger, because we know who did it. But the question is why? Was it really a true moment of breakdown, a mental breakdown, or was it a carefully planned murder? The trial was one of the most closely watched military trials of its time, shocking both the American military community and also the local Philippine community. Because John never denied the shooting, the investigation moved on quickly, centering John's state of mind. His lawyers argued that he suffered a mental breakdown due to overwhelming emotions at that time. They claimed that he wasn't thinking rationally when he fired the shots. Prosecutors argued that no amount of heartbreak or jealousy can excuse what had happened. Audrey had trusted John with all her heart, and he had ended that trust with 5 shots of the pistol towards her. The trial revealed John's letters and the full arc of the relationship, a portrait of a man who loved deeply but whose affection had slowly curdled into obsession. The court rejected the insanity argument, ruling that John understood what he was doing. He was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to death by hanging. The sentence was reviewed through the military chain of command, and eventually the sentence was upheld. If you read about it, the highest person in the military chain of command is the US president, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I read. So he also went through the case and he upheld the sentence as well. But John's father, who was back in the US, he was trying to argue his son's case by writing multiple different letters to a lot of different people, even the president. And one of those letters I read that he mentioned his son has some sort of a mental issue because guess what? This was not the first time he's pulling out his gun. Because back in the days, he had pulled out a gun on another woman, but he did not shoot at that time. The reason why he pulled out the gun was because she rejected his marriage proposal. The father thought by saying this, he could get some sort of leniency for his son. Like, I don't understand. This is bad. This is a guy who's pulling out his gun. Or maybe he thought for leniency of maybe life sentence or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that was mentioned in one of those letters. Like, what? Finally, on the morning of March 18th, 1926, less than a year after Audrey's death, John Sewell Thompson walked calmly into the military gallows of Fort McKinley in Manila. He was just 25 years old still, and he became the first ever American military officer to be executed during peacetime. Can you guys hear the thunder? It's thundering really bad. That's why it's super dark here. It's thundering and lightning. It's thundering even a word? But yeah, there's a lot of thunder outside. A case that challenged the belief that officers were held to a different standard. But in the end, even the uniform made no difference. Two young people who fell deeply in love dreamed about a beautiful future together, but somewhere along the way, that love turned into fear, that fear into jealousy, and finally, jealousy into violence. Audrey never got the life she dreamt of, and John had to go through the remainder of his life knowing that he could never undo what he had already done. This story is a reminder that love mixed with insecurity and the need to possess the other person can turn destructive. So don't do that. Don't think you can own a person. No. Trust your partner, love them, be honest, be truthful. That's about it. Okay? Be good people. That is all I have for you guys for today. If you have tuned in till this very moment, thank you so much, you guys. Please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, maybe a comment. I would love to read them. If you have not done so yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Help the channel grow further, reach that 400 subscriber mark. If you have time to spare, please click on my other videos that will be popping up. Until the next time, stay safe out there, take care, and I would see you soon. Bye.